Namaskar traders and a very good evening. Today was the very first trading session for the year 2023. Oh yes, by the way, a very happy new year to every one of you. So we are on the evening of 2nd of Jan 2023. It's 8:32 p.m. Indian Standard Time. We're looking at Nifty near month futures on the weekly, daily and the 75-minute time frame. And I would say that it was an interestingly volatile session for the benchmark Nifty 50. We gained around 69 points to close at 18,275. Almost most of the trading session in today's trade stayed within the Friday's high ranged bar. Just a little bit of breach of Friday's low happened today. It was a pretty sharp bounce back towards the afternoon. It opened flat to negative, stayed predominantly flattish to positive, slipped and then gave a very strong sharp bounce back. Not bad. It's essentially trying its best not to fall and inch towards that psychological 18K mark. What we are experiencing right now is a test of supports. If you bring your attention to the weekly charts and if you've been following these market views, then we've been saying that a psychological break of that 18K mark, and if the index drops below that, that will be just a test of that level, and support should kick in because these levels have aligned pretty well with previous highs, and it can just test the waters and can give us a bounce. And so far so good. That's exactly what has happened. But I think where we stand today, and maybe for the majority of this week's trade, it's going to be very tricky. It's going to be very tricky. It's going to be very interesting. And if you are one of those traders who have the slightest of inclinations to go short, or you expect that this index is coming down again, breaking below the 18K mark or so on and so forth, if you expect that, then I would strongly request and suggest not to do anything unless today's low is broken, especially if today's low is broken tomorrow. However, if you see a follow-through movement on the upside, then I would request you to wait out. Tricky because we can clearly see, if I can term this index Bachao Andolan, essentially metals have come up front and CNX metals have given a phenomenal move. Phenomenal probably is a small word. And then we have, if you had noticed the charts of Reliance and Axis Bank in the last 1 hour trade today, it just came out from nowhere just to make sure that the index stands positive in today's trade. So we'll take a look at those charts, but let's conclude Nifty and its view. So when I take a look at the short-term charts, which I'm using 75-minute time frame to define, we are in an uptrend. Momentum is slightly, kind of seesaw, but the tendency should be on the upside. And if the tendency is on the upside, then we should expect a retest of close to that 18,400 mark, wherein we have these highs and close to these highs. So somewhere around there, the index can inch further towards that level, possible. On the downside, it is today's low for tomorrow. What will happen tomorrow, what kind of a candle I'll get here tomorrow, based on what will be the view and analysis tomorrow, that's after 24 hours. But right now, as I record this video for you, if by any chance you get a breach of today's low tomorrow itself, then I think your interest on the short side should pick up. Till that happens, try not to go short in this market. So short-term trend is up and it's trying not to fall. intermediate time frame using the daily charts is still in a structural downtrend, going through a typical technical bounce back. Momentum has improved pretty good, and will this improvement of momentum lead to a reversal of trend? Will this weekly charts correction, is this over and are we heading for a new life high? Or is it going to open up as a complex correction on the downside like this? Well, I don't know. I can only base my views and anticipation completely based on the behavior of price. And at this juncture, I can see that the long-term charts are fine. The long-term charts did test the supports. The long-term charts are on the verge of a decent bounce back. So far, so good. The bounce back has been pretty decent enough. Does it have enough steam to reverse this trend or not? So that needs to be seen. Till that happens, I think the choppiness, or in other words, the volatility, is here to stay. The quicker it reverses to an uptrend, the better. The longer it stays subdued, especially on the daily time frame, I think it will find difficult and the volatility will continue. So level wise, today's low, and if it extends further up, then 18,350 to 18,400 on the upside. Bank Nifty played an exceptional role and it's still doing good. In the Bank Nifty daily chart, the 75-minute chart as well as the daily charts, even the weekly charts are far well poised and placed in comparison to that of Nifty. We know banks have played out pretty well. We can see a structural congestion. It's taken the shape of like a triangular ascending triangle pennant kind of a behavior on the 75-minute time frame. On the daily charts, trend and momentum has improved. So it seems like it's far better to go long on the Bank Nifty or the banking names in relation to the other sectors. So banks enjoy the maximum weightage and they look good. The charts look good and they can support. Again, the extent of its fall thanks to SBI and the extent of its bounce back is severe. Quite severe, because it did not spend any time whatsoever once it broke that 42,000 mark to form any kind of a base, not even on the 75-minute time frame. We don't get to see any cluster, we don't get to see any kind of divergence kind of a scenario, nothing. It shows how the index is in a hurry not to waste time and bounce back. So good to know that the sector is supporting the index. Few sectors which are not so well placed. FMCG has slipped into a downtrend. Consumer durables trying not to fall any further. CNX Finance is at a crux. It's a make or break, I would say, from here. Either you just open up on the downside or you can gain further upsides from here on. Real estate will be a very, very interesting candidate to look at, because after this sharp sell-off, almost close to 50% of that sell-off has now been retraced back, and at today's high the CNX Realty Index is back to its previous swing low. So though the trend has reversed or is reversing on the upside, momentum has improved, I think it requires a short-term dip from here and then the next leg up. So there will be pockets of buying as well as selling, or in other words I can say a stock selective market will continue. You may get some good moves either on the upside or on the downside. For example, you had Asian Paints today, opened up with a mild gap down and then complete fall through movement on the downside in the very first 75 minutes. After that it stayed down, but clearly has moved into a downtrend and a typical short candidate. I have few others which I'll be looking very closely tomorrow if they offer any kind of shorting opportunities from the 75-minute time frame, as well as some long opportunities. So it's a mixed market. Hopefully we will pick the right stock. Hopefully the stock will prove to be right at the end of the day, but it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be easy because if you can see this chart, Reliance, how it bounced back just to help the index. If you see Axis Bank, the way it bounced back, which matter to the bank Nifty and the overall market. So these kind of late strong buying can actually alter the views, especially for short-term traders who are looking to go short in the market. So let's see how it plays out. Hopefully your stock selection, or I would say not hopefully your stock selection, but I would say it will be your stock selection. If you're a stock trader, it will completely be your stock selection skills that will make the difference going forward, till the point we get a nice emphatic trend either on the up or the downside. Now, I did talk about Axis Bank and Reliance, and you can clearly see how Axis Bank bounced back. Daily charts kind of okay, and it seems like it wants to extend further up. The problem, not exactly problem, but what I can clearly see in Axis Bank's weekly chart, and it gives me those reminds me of 2007, early 2008 kind of a behavior when we saw this ending diagonal or rising wedge after a strong rising market. Generally, they open up on the downside. That is, they lead towards a reversal of the trend. But I have seen failures also. I've seen how these stocks, these formations just open up further on the upside. Nevertheless, in these kind of situations, you will continue to face and see divergence. It's a very, very common nature, and that's why they generally open up on the downside. If and only if these kind of structures, if you find them on your charts, if they open up on the downside, be sure that the opening up will be very, very sharp. A lot of distance will be traveled or covered in a very, very small span of time. It will be sharp and vicious when they work. When they don't work, they just continue to go up. So good luck with that. I'll keep this wedge drawn on my Axis Bank weekly chart just to see how this particular wedge plays out in the future. All right, so Happy New Year to everyone again. I'm sure you had a good year, 2022, and a better one is coming for all of us this year in 2023. Thank you for following my work and appreciating. Thank you again, and good night.